What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Wednesday Hunte Parkway training. If you are not familiar with my channel, my name is Dalton and we are here to go through another race analysis, and let me tell you, this one is actually special. So this is the grand finale of our Wednesday Hunte Parkway training. To give you guys a little bit of background on this course, if you haven't seen my last race analysis at Wednesday Hunte Parkway training, WHPT for short, this one is a 2.8 mile course. There's a couple big ring rollers on this course. It's fast uphill, fast downhill. Last time I went for this, I had basically the race script of attacking, trying to bridge to a break. I threw down multiple 1,000-watt efforts, and ultimately that toasted my legs, and I was unable to contest what ended up in a field sprint. This week's race script, a little bit different. The idea was to not necessarily chase everything or try and bridge early on, but the idea was more to let the race unfold a little bit, get deeper in. If something looked threatening late in the race, then go ahead and bridge. But if something happened early on that didn't have the right makeup of individuals to make it to the line, then my ultimate goal was to sort of either help the chase effort or help drive pace to keep it fast enough so that everything comes back to a field sprint at the end. Now, my reason for not wanting to go too early is because last week, I think, many of you who watched my video saw that I went at it with multiple 1,000-watt attacks to try and bridge across to early breakaways. And those early breakaways didn't have the right makeup of people to get to the line. The brake wasn't working together, it wasn't efficient, and ultimately what happened is I blew my legs up and I was unable to contest what inevitably turned into a field sprint. So my goal tonight is to not get into that kind of situation. And if something happens that the right makeup of guys go late in this race, I want to be in the correct position to go ahead and jump across, bridge to that breakaway, not bring the peloton with me, and hopefully stay away to the line, and then contest at least the podium out of a smaller selection of individual riders. All right, so diving into some actual race footage here. What you're gonna see is some early attacks going, and I'm not necessarily too dedicated to getting in this breakaway and working. The only thing that is somewhat dangerous is I do know that the rider off the front here, Max, with Guillotine Cycling, can TT away from this field by himself. I'm hoping it's a little bit too early for that, so I do want to chase with some of these other guys and hopefully form some organized chase group so that we can bring him back solo. I'm in no position to bridge, and I don't know that I could keep his pace for the next 16 miles anyway, so I'm better off working with 3 or 4 other strong individuals in this group in order to chase him down, hopefully, bring him back, and then maybe even counterattack if I can. The only problem with countering this early in the race is that I know, based on my previous performances, that I don't have the legs right now to ride away by myself. Unless I get the perfect makeup of the right 5 or 6 guys that are willing to work with me and stay away to the line, then I probably won't stay away, and ultimately that break will get brought back as well. So, as you can see, we're putting in a pretty big chase effort here, and we're riding pretty strong to bring him back. We definitely don't want him to go out by himself early in the race, late in the race, doesn't really matter. He can definitely ride it and stay out there, so we do want to put in a bit of an effort here to make sure that doesn't get away. Now, as soon as I come around this bend, what I realize is that Max is actually putting in more distance on us than he initially had. So that's gaining momentum. I'm willing to either jump across to this or put in a pretty big dig here on the uphill to make sure that that doesn't stay away. I'm extremely concerned with this, and I'm more concerned about guys later in the race jumping across to him, so I might as well try and either do that now or put in the big dig and attack that is ultimately going to drive the pace of the peloton that will bring him back. This part of the race I just wanted to jump to really quickly to show you sort of an important thing that's being worked out here. And what happens is the rider that you see on the right, he's working to sort of put in an attack here and push himself up the road, and the rider to his left is actually going to follow. Now, that's important because of what is going to happen a little bit later in the race as we start to develop a bit of a chase here, and ultimately a couple riders later on are going to see this as threatening and take an interest in bridging, and we'll see how that develops. Boy, am I frustrated with this move. So, I'm not necessarily frustrated at the team. CFT made a smart move here. It's a smart decision. It is what it is when you're a solo rider in a group and you get boxed in. And I'm more frustrated with my own positioning and my inability to recognize what was happening. So you see the CFT rider here tells his teammate to slow down as Max with guillotine and one of the other CFT riders are riding to bridge across to that duo that is still up the road. Now that's extremely frustrating for me because I'm not in position to cover this attack and I know that this is dangerous and it can stay away. I am more than willing at this point to put in a big dig to either bridge myself in a secondary chase group or hopefully push the rest of the peloton to drive the pace and bring this thing back, because this makeup of these 4 riders is going to be really, really dangerous with only about half of the race left. And ultimately, this frustrating move sets up what is going to be the winning move, which I'm going to cut to right now. I want you guys to really be on the lookout and see if you can spot the winning move happen here. We're just about to bring the brake back, and as soon as we attach wheels, everybody's going to slow up just enough to let it happen. So you'll see where I'm sitting here. I'm behind these 2 riders, and I don't really have good visibility of the brake and what happens when we do finally attach wheels. Chances are you didn't see what happened there. Now, I'm gonna point out we are missing a rider here. Max with guillotine took off the front and counterattacked the brake that he was in as soon as it was brought back. So, super smart move. There were plenty of us who were working really hard on the front and really driving this chase effort, and we were putting in a huge effort, so we're pretty tired when we finally bring this breakaway back. As soon as we attach to the back of this breakaway, he immediately puts in another attack, which I didn't even see because I was tucked in a bad position in the peloton, and I should have basically counterattacked this brake as soon as we brought it back. We're deep in the race at this point at 10.3 miles. Now, with only 40% of the race left, I said earlier on that I was really concerned about Max TTing off the front and basically riding away from the field and gaining a gap that we can't bring back. You'll see that Zach and myself and some of the other riders in this group that want to basically contest this finish are really dedicated to pushing the pace of this group, keeping him motivated and trying to bring it back. Once again, we end up in a situation. CFT riders are on the front. One of their teammates starts to ride off of the front. However, this time it's with Zach. And I also know Zach is quick, Zach can ride a brake, and he can potentially stay away. There's a little bit of a gap, and I'm definitely interested in being in that chase group, because if they can bridge across to Max, then ultimately those 3 guys are gonna stay away to the line, particularly because we are so close to the end of this race, now with only around 4.5 miles to go. So I go ahead, I try and jump across to these 2 riders, which is Zach and this other CFT rider, and I'm willing to latch onto the back of them and then rotate in sequence if we can. But unfortunately, I bring quite a bit of the peloton with me, so now we're essentially just chasing as a full group again. So we are gonna fast forward to the last lap here. I think everybody's kind of relaxed a little bit, and we wanna sit in, see what we can do in the field sprint. Max pretty much has the number 1 slot locked up. He's about a minute off the front right now, and I don't think anybody's bringing that back with only about 2 miles to go. So basically, this is what we're stuck with. It's gonna be an interesting last lap. We're sitting in for the field sprint, and we're gonna see how things develop. I wanna cut to this point in the last lap because as I finish up my pool, I realized that quite a few of the CFT guys are making their way to the front. What this looks like is that they're kind of setting up an organized lead out. I'm trying to figure out who their sprinter is and if they've got anybody blocking on the back end so that maybe I can ride this lead out train to the end, particularly if they keep the pace really high going into the last corner and then coming up the 2 kickers to the finish. Typically with a lead out train like this, they're gonna keep the speed going so that nobody can throw a counterattack around them. But at this point in the race, I think everybody's pretty tired. Nobody's necessarily too dedicated to that. What actually happens is that you'll see this CFT rider towards the back is sort of blocking in a way, and they go with their age-old strategy that they've done a couple times in this race of sort of just sitting up on the front, not really driving the pace, and letting their teammates that are sitting directly in front of them open up a gap and just ride off the wheel. I realize that, and I start sort of yelling to Zach here, don't let that train go. And then ultimately, I have to just kind of jump around this CFT rider. I want to make sure I latch back onto the back of that train with Zach. I know Zach is going to contest the field sprint. He won it last week, and I know that if I stay on his wheel, we'll be in a relatively decent position when we actually get to the final hill. We've come out of the last corner. Things are pretty high speed, just like I anticipated they would be. People are starting to drive to the line at a high pace. There's a couple guys up front that looks like they're leading out. Maybe they're a sprinter. I don't exactly know where he's sitting. I do realize, though, that I'm sitting next to Zach and a couple of the other really strong riders that are surrounding me, and a couple unknown riders as well. I think that Corey may have been his name. He was new out, and I didn't recognize him. He looked like he had a sprint, so I wanted to make sure I was close to his wheel as well. And I also wanted to make sure I was close to a few of the guys that you see in this picture here. I know that they've contested the sprint multiple times, and I know that at some point they are going to open it up, and they're going to be the wheels I want to follow. What you'll see happening, which basically works out perfect, is some of the PRT guys open up their own lead out. And it looks like they're opening up this lead out train on the left side here. So I jump on the back of that train as it's moving faster than the entire right side of the group. I still see Zach here, and I want to make sure I'm still close to his wheel, but it looks like I'm sort of starting to lose it. So I go ahead and I roll with this PRT lead out train on the left. I see a gap sort of open on the right, and I'm realizing that I can get up and maybe take a sprinter's draft off of this rider. I do that, I open up my sprint, it's way early, and let's see what happens on the way to the line. On your left! This sprint came down to a three-way bike throw. So Zach on my right and Lubin on my left. Zach comes across the line first. He gets about, I think, a wheel or maybe a half a bike on myself and Lubin. The way it turned out was third-party judgment came in and said that I actually got nicked at the line. I knocked myself off the podium. I went a little early, but I'm going to lay the blame on the rider that was in front of me because I had to drop a little bit of wattage there, and then I had to get back on the sprint. But I was super happy to be able to contest the field sprint this week, give it a solid go. I had the legs left at the end because I wasn't riding like a total maniac, putting in multiple efforts that were ultimately not sustainable. So I think I rode pretty smart this week. I stuck to my game plan a little better. I wanted to be here for the field sprint. Unfortunately, Max rode away with the number 1 slot, so there was no contesting that. But if, we would have been one rider short, then maybe I would have ended up on the podium, but this week didn't happen. I'll take home the 4th place. Is what it is, and that's bike racing and getting better all the time. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you disagree with some of my commentary and you think maybe I could have done some things a little bit better, if you see things on the other hand that I maybe did well that I didn't realize myself that were key critical moments of the race, feel free to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. And don't forget, if you do enjoy this kind of content, hit the subscribe button for me. You'll see these new videos as I put them out, hopefully every week at this point. I know it's coming into winter, so maybe I'll post out a little bit less on YouTube, but the idea is that, when I do send something out, you guys will see that. You can watch this content, and if you did enjoy that video itself, then go ahead and also hit the like button for me, and that helps this video be seen by more viewers. So thanks, and see you guys soon.